All right, guys, but we are going to be jumping into the first game as we go ahead and introduce the players spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of Akalon Ways as the blue Zerg player representing Team Gravity. It is going to be Kreos.
And spawning in the bottom right, currently teamless. Very strong player. Fantastic showing during the last fight night. It is Neeb.
And we are already seeing that first SCV kind of going out, building the supply depot. Everything looking pretty standard. And I think, as we kind of mentioned before, both very macro-centric players. So I'd be surprised to see any kind of super early cheese going on right now.
Yeah, although one thing Kreos might do is Kreos might say, look, you're a macro player, I'm a macro player, you expect me to play macro, I expect you to play macro. So how about I hit you with one of those nasty Zerg timings that Sulky has made really popular?
Ooh. And like what kind of timings are they?
Well, there's the Roach timings, there's the Roach Baneling timings, there's the early Baneling timings. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of things that he could pull out.
Yeah, and I've noticed since a lot of players have been going for that sort of fast 3cc style and really powering up economically, some Zerg players have kind of just responded, and they've been doing this for a while now. They just go for those big Roach, Zergling, Baneling all-ins. And do you think that's going to be a viable option for Kreos?
I think it'll be a viable option. It's proven to be extremely viable. A lot of Terrans have a hard time dealing with it.
Is it something that just kind of comes down to who controls better and who, whether or not the Terran player will be able to defend? Or...
Well, a lot of times what happens is it blindsides the Terran, and they don't prepare accordingly for it. Like, they don't put down enough fortification, or they don't even bother with tanks, and they're just like, oh crap, I have no way to hold this, doesn't matter how well I play. That's usually what ends up happening.
All right, well, we'll have to see then. I guess scouting information might be kind of important, and we are going to be seeing a Reaper coming out of the Terran player Neeb right now while he gets ready to throw down that command center, and we'll have to see how much damage can this Reaper actually do, as well as what is it going to actually be seeing.
Well, against somebody like Kreos, it really shouldn't do much damage. You know, maybe knock a few hit points off a few drones. It's more going to be about, hey, you need to build a few Zerglings, and by the way, what are you doing? That's pretty much what the Reaper's there for.
Yeah, and those Zerglings actually popping out the exact right time. The Reaper going to have to be a little bit careful. Takes a little bit of damage over there, but he's going to be able to get out nice and safely and start to regenerate some of that health while it kind of harasses, looks for some drones. It does that good old Reaper stuff. It's reaping the benefits of speed.
It is indeed.
But Queen can be popping out, and that's really gonna put a hamper on it. All the damage that the Reaper can actually do, and I think, as you said, Shadow, Kreos, a top-notch player, not really gonna be taking too much damage from this.
No, not at all. In fact, I'm a little surprised to see that Kreos has decided to go a pretty early speed. He started at around 410-ish, I think. So we might actually see some early Zergling aggression from him.
That is going to be kind of interesting. And, you know, the Reaper did get a pretty early scout off to see exactly when that gas geyser was up. Do you think that the Zerg player, or sorry, the Terran player, Neeb, actually knows about this potential aggression? Or could be seeing him dark?
Yeah, he should have seen the pool wiggling when he had the Reaper up there, I think. I think he was up there at that time.
And even if he didn't, he could have clicked on the gas geyser and sort of checked to see how much gas has been mined.
Like, oh, you've only got 2,400 gas. Yeah. You're going for speed. Yeah,
but I mean, for now, we're just seeing regular good old macro play, and actually we're seeing a third go down right now for Kreos, and this is honestly looking to me like they're both just going to be playing a macro game. We see a Viking coming out, which is also, I always love to see Terran players get out that Viking, just because you can do such great Overlord hunting with it.
Yeah, I do like to see that myself. That's always, it's one of those little cheeky things that Terrans can do that doesn't really set them back at all, but can be very annoying for the Zerg. Because suddenly they're going to have to change what they're doing. They're either going to have to pull back, lose information, or get Overlord speed, or just lose some Overlords and build some more.
But hold that thought. We actually see some interesting unit movement from Kreos right now. He's actually coming in with a ton of those speed Zergons over to the natural expansion. The wall up is actually not completed. And I mean, there's not that many Marines over there. The Hellions and the Reapers are on the other side of the map.
They are, and this is actually pretty effective for the investment. I'm getting an excellent delay of mining here in the natural. Of course, he's not going to be able to really kill much, but he's certainly stopped mining for quite a while.
Yeah, and another nice thing is that he pulled back all those Reapers and the Hellions, and hey, that means that these two Queens over at the front can start expanding that creep. They can connect the third expansion, which I honestly feel like has been a bit of an issue sometimes for Zerg players on this map.
Oh, where they take the third straight down instead of taking the pocket third?
Yeah.
I understand why they do it. And it really makes sense because and it's really just the creep pattern that Zergs are used to doing. That you might as well just go in the direction of your creep as opposed to having to deal with the rocks. You know, it's easy to get that stupid drone picked off that tries to go around the rocks, you know, ahead of time before the rocks are down. It's a smoother third for Zerg to take that straight line.
Definitely, but hold that thought. We have the Hellions coming in over here, trying to pick off whatever creep doomers they can, and they actually managed to get quite a few of them. Only one really left over. Those Queen's gonna have to vomit out a couple more creep tumors. They are not getting paid enough to go into labor for that stuff. But the Hellions gonna continue to just try and be aggressive on these creep tumors. They managed to pick off another one. Are they gonna get the second one? Wow, they get it with the last Reaper shot. And I mean, creep has been shut down, man.
I do believe you associated vomiting with going into labor.
I'm sure it feels just about as terrible. Maybe a little bit worse with the second one. But I can't really speak from experience on that.
Well, generally the vomiting happens before you go into labor.
That is a true fact, but oh my god, these Reapers and these Hellions are being so aggressive right now. I mean, not a single creep doomer's really been able to actually get out safely, and both of these Queens have been reduced to very low health, but we have a lot of Banelings actually coming in from Kreos, and he's hiding those over in the... Oh, actually no, he's trying to deal with the drop over in the main base.
And deals with it very well. The drop not really doing much at all.
Yeah, and honestly, even though Neeb has done a great job shutting down that kind of front line of the Zerg player, honestly, neither of these players have really done a substantial amount of damage to each other. There was also the Zergling run by, but one worker was really killed off, a couple of Marines as well, but now we're going to end up seeing, can Neeb actually set up to be in a great position? Little Mites are going to make it so hard to defend that third. Oh! Oh my god, an absolutely fantastic Widowmine shot. Killed off a majority of those Zerglings. There's still a handful of units left over and trying to pressure in this third expansion. The drones hiding for their life. The Overlord's going to be going down, and the Swarcaller are going to keep that medevac back for a little bit. But right now, we do not see a response from Kreos that's able to handle these Marines and these Marauders right now.
Wow, this attack is doing a lot more damage than I expected.
And behind all this, we have Neeb actually knocking down those blocks to try and go for that third expansion. He ends up picking up the medevac very low on health, but does manage to get out of there safely. And I mean, with that all being said, how much damage was actually done? It looks like 6 workers killed total, but I don't know. Do you think it was worth losing all those units?
I think that was worth it. Not only did it delay mining, now he's actively moving to expand into his third. Neeb is. So he's got... He was able to expand and thoroughly delay the third of Kreos as well. And at the same time, I'm not sure if it was pointed out, but the Viking was supply capping Kreos several times. You know, Kreos several times had to devote larva and minerals to getting his supply cap back.
That's something really important to note, but GG does get called as the pressure is just a little bit too much, and Neeb takes game number 1.
And I was actually kind of surprised to see it go down that way. I think that attack was a little more effective than it should have been. Partially because there was a supply cap going on during the attack, or right before the attack, which was preventing Kreos from taking advantage of his macro hatch.
Yeah, that would definitely hurt if you were expecting to be able to pump out more and more Zerglings and Banelings and all that kind of stuff, but suddenly it's just like you're constantly just losing the Overlords, and I mean, what are you really gonna do? You can't really get a queen out over to, wherever it is. The Viking is actually taking out all of your overlords. You know those queen. You need those queens to actually defend against the Hellions and the Reapers and the Marines and the Widow Mines and everything else. So it is a little bit of a precarious situation over there.
Indeed.
hmm Um, but as we jump into game number 2, and it looks like the map choice is going to be Derelict Watcher. Uh, what do you think that the Zerg player needs to do differently to defend against a kind of push like that, if he comes across it again?
Uh,
Putting you on the spot, man.
well, we're getting down here to subtleties. Like Kreos didn't really screw up. It's just
hmm
Neeb just kind of outplayed him a little bit, and that's what happened there.
hmm
Like there wasn't a major blunder. Like I would have, how do you tell a player just play a little bit better, and that wouldn't have happened.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to kind of bring it up. Is there anything that you feel like he maybe could have done, like maybe pulling in the overlords a little bit sooner once he saw that Viking coming
Yeah,
out?
not getting quite as supply capped would
hmm
have helped. A lot of times most Zergs, once the Viking is out there, like crap, and they just preemptively make several overlords,
hmm
ahead of time because they don't want to be in that situation where they're being attacked and they're supply capped.
hmm
Maybe that
Yeah,
would have helped. Honestly, the fact that Neeb landed that Viking to continue the attack, Vikings are actually pretty nasty on the ground.
especially against
They're
Zerglings, man.
yeah, especially against light units like that. So there was a lot of DPS there that if Kreos had another 20 Zerglings or whatever, he could have cleaned that up, or maybe another Baneling hit that was a little more effective.
hmm
But man, there was not a huge major mistake. You could say, oh, well, Kreos, you just screwed yourself there. It was just that could have gone better, that could have gone better, and you keep adding up those little that could have gone betters, and it's basically the situation I just said. In the beginning is you're gonna have that avalanche, and he's gonna wait. You're just gonna wait for your opponent to screw up, and then you're gonna just come storming down the mountain and crush him.
hmm Yeah, and that puts you into a really weird position. Maybe you would like to see a Zerg player in this next game just try out something different because he felt like, if he was just sort of getting outplayed, maybe he just needs to throw in something totally different, change the rules of the game, kind of.
Maybe, but at the same time, I'm not sure. If Kreos was just waking up, if he's had a chance to
Mhm.
warm up or anything like that.
Yeah.
It might just have been kind of a rushed game, a rust game.
Rough
RUST,
game.
not
Yeah.
rushed.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in and introduce the players in this next game as we spawn down here in the bottom left-hand corner of Derelict Watcher. We have the Yellow Terran player currently up 1-0. It's Neeb.
And in the top right corner, representing Team Gravity, often Team Gravity's ace, it is Kreos.
And, I mean, Derelict Watcher is a bit of a different map from that last one, Akalon Waste. Especially thinking a little bit more about that third expansion. I feel like it's a little bit more difficult for Zerg players to necessarily get the creep all the way over to the third expansion. What do you think about it?
Well, that is definitely true. One of the key points of Derelict is that bifurcation that occurs between the natural and the third, and whichever opponent exploits that better can usually win the game. The fact that you can basically have an engagement going on in the natural and then send a few units to pick off what's in the third, and there's no way for the defender to stop it.
hmm And I mean, a lot of people they understand like the idea of Terran sort of abusing the distances. They come in with maybe a drop over into the main base to pull the Zerg army over to the main, and then they pressure in at the third. How would you like to see a Zerg player kind of exploit that?
Oh, run bys.
hmm
Just or catch an army just as it's starting to move out, or maybe as the army attacks, just send a run by and go run into that third.
That would be really cool to see, actually. I'd
Yeah.
love to see some more Zerg run-bys.
Yeah, and an open
And
map like this, you're gonna want speed anyway. It's just you can get
Mhm.
surrounds because they're gonna be very effective in such open terrain.
Yeah, so maybe do you think that Kreos should, in fact, just open up sort of similarly to how he did in the last game, go for that sort of earlier speed? Well, I guess he's not really doing it right
Yeah,
now, right?
I have always been a fan of 4 minute-ish speed against Terran
Hmm.
in ZVT. So I don't have a problem with that. It is not an unsafe play to make. You're not obligated to take advantage of that speed, but
Hmm.
at the very least, you can put pressure on the Terran and be like, "Hey, my Zerglings are across the map. What are you going to do about it?" And just keep that presence up, even if you're not engaging, and take advantage of that early pool that you got.
Hmm. Some
Excuse me,
really
early
nice
speed.
control.
Yeah.
Really nice control over there, saving that drone actually at the very, very last second. I feel like that Reaper was already aiming his guns at the drone's head, but looks like it will be able to kill off one drone, which is a nice little win, and actually going after a second drone. Doesn't quite get it, and the Queen's popping out should put an end for the most part to the Reaper harassment for a little bit. Well, I guess those Zergons might take a little bit extra damage, but hey, we actually see a little bit of a deviation this game. We see Neeb going for a very fast factory, and I mean, do you think that's going to indicate he wants to go for some kind of early drop play or what?
No, I don't find this to be a very odd factory timing, to be honest with you. He's just going to make Hellions with that factory pretty similar to what he did the last time. I mean, yeah, I mean, of course, a drop is always a possibility, you know, with a starboard being built at 530 something. But he's not obligated to drop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, maybe I take back what I was saying earlier. This actually is looking a lot maybe like that last game where he'll go for those opening Reapers, get out a couple of the Hellions, and then maybe just produce that one Viking and just go Overlord hunting again. I mean, it worked out so well in the last game.
It did. And Kreos is, yeah, he's got 3 Overlords out in the map, so yeah, it could be effective.
Yeah,
But it
it's
should
always
not be
hard
lethal.
yeah, it's always hard to say, like, you can't just completely pull in every single Overlord preemptively in case they make a Viking, right? But
No.
at the same time, if they're out on the map, they're basically dead.
Ooh,
But,
Banshees.
whoa,
Okay, this is definitely different.
And, I mean, Banshees are something that you just don't see very often anymore. What do you think about that?
Well, they've fallen out of favor, but it's not necessarily because they were bad. It's just that there were better things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be really effective if Kreos is not expecting this.
Yeah, but at the same time, we do have 4 queens out on the map. In this game, we're going to have much, much better creep spread early on in comparison to the last game. So we'll have to wait and see how effective these Banshees are actually going to be able to be. The Zergling trying to seize control of that Zelnaga Watchtower, not going to be able to get it. But actually, one Zergling does cancel that 3rd command center from actually being built for a little bit. Just going to delay stuff. And that's little bits of damage. Kreos does... Oh, Kreos came in with the Overlord. He should have actually seen that, hey, the Starport was on the tech lab. Something must be up.
Yeah. And actually, I would say that was kind of huge, the fact that he delayed the 3rd as long as he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but he has decided to go melee again this route, or this time around.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, Neeb is going to be coming in with this Banshee and the Hellions, and actually he's doing a lot of damage over to those Queens right now. Queen's going to have to back up. The Zergling's going to have to be careful as well, but there's a lot of creep threat over here. That means that those Zerglings could get a pretty nice little surround and a nice little concave on those Hellions. Has to be a little bit careful about that. Oh, the Banshee already go down? Oh my god, that was actually a really, really great pickoff for Kreos right now. That's going to severely diminish the amount of damage that this push can actually do.
It is, and now all Kreos has to do is just get a crap ton of Zerglings to go in there with a Baneling bust and be like, you've got nothing to defend.
Oh god, that's actually a really, really scary thought. And you know, Scan does go down, picks up a couple of these creep tumors, but the Hellions are actually getting surrounded by a lot of those Zerglings. So Reaper's gonna get taken out as well, and that last Hellion is gonna get taken out, ending the entirety of the aggression. And I would love to see exactly what you said, Shadow. We see the Baneling Nest going to be finishing up very, very soon. +1/+1 going to be finishing up in about 40 seconds. Like, could he hit a big timing right here and just maybe even deny the 3rd?
He could, or he can... You notice the Spire just went down as well. He can do a little bit of harassment to continue to delay that 3rd. And if it's not enough to kill Neeb outright, then just follow up with Mutus.
That's a really interesting point because we do have a drop going across the map. So if he kind of delays and just waits for those Mutalisks, then hey, those Mutalisks might actually be popping out just in time to start dealing with this little drop harassment. And I mean, Neeb gonna be in a very difficult position. He invested a lot into that early aggression, and I'm not sure if it paid off.
No, and Neeb probably going for the smarter play here by first he's going to take out this Overlord, and then he's just going to try and delay the fourth, which he did, and then he's going to move into the main.
Yeah, and he actually does pick up. It just kind of says, "Oh, there's a queen over there. Well, I'm just gonna deny your fourth expansion." I'm okay with that, and been seeing a lot of Zergers coming in, but they have to be careful. They have to make sure that they go around from the backside and get a pulse around. But nice pickup from Neeb. Just does some damage to the fourth expansion. Kind of tasks his opponent, making sure he has to manage all the aggression everywhere while he goes in for a drop from the bottom side.
Indeed. And at this point, I'd like to point out that Neeb has got a very strong three-base economy going. Which is very dangerous for Zerg. Zerg needs to get his fourth up, and he needs to get out there and start doing some damage.
Yeah, and I mean, he's trying to get that fourth expansion up, but as you said, if he wants to do some damage, what does he have to do? Because he has to deal with these medevac drops that are also coming in.
Well, he's got mutas out at this point, so the medevac drop should be defendable rather easily at this point. He needs to get in there, and you know, he's decided to go the melee route. He's got the Baneling Nest, he's got centrifugal hooks, he's got 2-2 upgrading right now. He needs to go in there and do a little bit of harassment, possibly some damage. And at the very least, he cannot let a fourth go down, but he should try and do something about the third.
And I like that he's actually just dropping a little bit of creep at potential nearby expansion locations for Neeb. As you know, he also tries to do a little bit of mutual harassment. Doesn't really find too many openings right now, as there's bunkers and marines pretty much placed at all the vulnerable locations. So I don't know. This is looking to be a very, very macro-centric game, but oh man, I'm still just a little bit worried right now because Kreos unable to really do a lot of damage right now, and he still has to deal with these drops.
He does, and he needs to move that Overlord over just a little bit more. That's in the fourth that he's pooping with right now. Because honestly, a Terran's just going to land a command center off, or one grid off, and just laugh and just start mining from it immediately.
Yeah, drop over in the main base does get cleaned up very, very rapidly by all those Mutalisks, but I mean, honestly, as you said, Neeb is just getting a chance to power up like crazy right now. 2-2 is going to be finishing up for the Zerg player, so that's a nice little win, as well as +1 flyer text and an infestation pit going down as well. But at the same time, we have Neeb pushing across the map, has some Widow Mines, going to be going for a 2-2 of his own, but is he going to hit before the Zerg player gets 2-2?
No. Zerg is going to have 2-2 by the time that attack actually hits.
All right, so he's going to be at a bit of an upgrade deficit right now, and he's just kind of waiting around. I'm curious, do you think that he should maybe just go for the aggression right now, or do you think he should just be waiting for his 2-2 to finish himself?
I think.
Oh,
well, yeah. See, what you want to do is when you're in a situation where you're not ready to really attack, you want your army present out on the map to at least see opportunities. Like, he just had an opportunity there to pick off a few mutas, and I think he did. So, at the very least, you need to stay active. Oh, wow.
Oh,
that was... Yeah, that was an oops.
Using 2 of the medevacs and 2 of the other ones, basically sitting in the dead health, and one Glaive Worm will immediately start to take out some of those medevacs. The Beetle is actually engaging the Marines over here. This is not what you want to be doing as a Zerg player. He's got to be so careful. You just take another Widowmine shot on all those Beetles as well.
And, oh, wow.
Marines coming in from behind. They're going for a giant flank, and there's no escape. All of these Marines and these Banelings all get taken out. And
wow. I can't really call him Victor from that.
I feel like the Zerg player came out ahead because, I mean, he managed to take out all that aggression, and I mean, I think he did it right before 2-2 finished up. I guess there's an entire another army out for Neeb, though, that's pushing across the map.
Yeah, it's
this is a weird push.
Slightly favored for Zerg there, just slightly.
Yeah, and with all these Zergers going to be coming in once again to try and defend. The Widowmine shots are unbelievably good right now for Neeb, and that's the reason that all these Banelings that are going to be coming in are going to be so vulnerable. They have nothing to tank the damage with them. The Spine Call is going to buy a little bit of time, but is that going to be enough? Kreos has to get up some use to actually defend this push.
And this is a problem when you let that Terran just get his economy going, get that 2-2 going. It's a powerful force to fight.
Oh gosh, Wintermine shots going off on the Mules. The Mules are so close to cleaning up everything and still surviving, but so many of them get taken out by the remaining Marines. We're seeing 5 Mutalists left over at the end of that push. And guess what? We already have another army starting to get macroed up for our Terran player.
And he has successfully gotten his 4th down.
Oh man, it's covered in creep right now, but it's gonna mine just as well. And I like this, throwing up 5 missile turrets. He knows that all he has to do is keep up this aggression, man, and just stop any kind of counterattack from going off.
This is turning out to be quite an interesting game. Very back and forth.
But Neeb is pushing in once again, and we'll have to see, can Kreos come up with a second defense? He has some Zorgans, he has a handful of Banelings, but is it going to actually be enough right now? The split is pretty decent right now. Does lose a couple of Marines over there from that second shot over there, but I mean, Neeb is looking to be in a pretty decent position, I think, over here to at least take one of these expansions out.
God, it's hard to believe that this is a pre-match. This isn't even the finals.
Yeah, this is an absolutely insane game, and currently Neeb is up 1-0, I believe, so Kreos has to make something happen. He has to try and defend against his aggression. He's still sitting on 4 bases, so still has a decent economy with 72 drones, but
I would say Zerg is behind in economy right now.
Really? Well, I mean,
yeah.
Looks like Zerg is going to be able to take the engagement at least, so maybe by taking the engagement, does not want to lose too many of those mules over there, though. But maybe if you can take an engagement, you can power back up in the economy and just take one of those 5th expansions and come back from that sense. And...
Oh, wow.
God, Neeb is just a macro monster in this game. Every single time you take out his army, he has another one just sitting behind. It's like the endless wave of units just coming out of some kind of crazy wormhole. He has to have a wormhole to like frost.
This is
like,
hey man, this is the way strong Terrans play against Zerg. There's always that resupply. You trade cost efficiently, or even more than cost efficiently, and then you come back immediately with your re-up again.
Yeah, and once again with some of those Banelings, he manages to clean up yet again, but oh my god, so many of these medevacs are actually surviving throughout these pushes. He's just building up an enormous number of medevacs right now, and with 3-3 upgrades and that kind of squadron of medevacs, I mean, these pushes are just going to continue to be so difficult for Kreos to actually hold off.
They are indeed.
But we have Infestors out, and that could actually change the landscape of these engagements. We'll have to wait and see. Are the Infestors going to be able to get off the big critical fungal? Some really nice splitting actually already done right now for Neeb, but Kreos actually taking advantage of the whole position, taking out a couple of units that are launched forward just a little bit, seeing what damage you can do, and a couple fungal growths do go down. The Zergans are now getting on top of the
about to die.
Oh wow, and now we're seeing the medevacs starting to get taken out by those mules. Nice target firing going down from Kreos. And with that being said, the hatchery gets taken out. But Kreos is definitely... Oh my god, Neeb, how do you have this many units coming out?
Well look, I mean he's got most of the map covered now with bases. Granted they're not mining yet, but he's muling like a monster up there in the top left.
I'm convinced that Neeb is playing the Wings of Liberty campaign, and he has like that one upgrade that comes in like from the tech tree that you can actually have your units drop shipped in. I'm convinced that's the only way he's capable of constantly rallying this many units. But for once in the actual game, Kreos is able to be a little bit aggressive with these mules. But the question is, how much damage is he actually going to be able to do? You can see that entire army just starting to converge on the potential attack.
And Neeb doesn't even care. He doesn't even care. He's just going to go for the kill.
Infestor's going to be able to lay out a couple of good fungal growths. Are they going to be able to get some monkey fungal growths? No, it looks like GG gets called and Neeb takes that game.
Very
and,
nice.
Oh my god, Shadow. Shadow, Neeb is a macro monster. I think that he starts off the game with an extra 500 minerals or something, man. He's so far ahead of how many Terrans I've seen actually, and I feel like he either that or he's playing macro micro, and we just don't know who that second micro player is because he's constantly macroing behind every single one of those pushes while kind of doing those pre-split ups and everything.
Yeah, he's definitely strong. Watching him is like watching a Korean play, especially that last game.
Yeah, I just love that. I mean, there's like the one type of like macro player that you'll say like, they macro up that big army and then they push out across the map. Neeb is the player who will be macroing, but he's also aggressive with what he's macroing with. So, and that's what makes him so scary because if you aren't able to deal with that aggression, then you're gonna fall behind in the macro as well. And that's when it just kind of snowballs. And Neeb is just kind of like, well, I have macro and I'm not allowing you to macro to your fullest potential. So what are you gonna do about it?
Exactly, and that's what I was talking about in the game before the
Mhm.
engagement happened. Is he wants to be active out in the map with his army, even though he's not looking to fight yet, and
Yeah.
just looking for opportunities, and just being there. Whoever has got his army on the other side of the map is the one dictating the pace of the game, is the one intimidating his opponent. And if you've got the multitasking or your macro is strong enough that it doesn't take you a lot of mental time, a lot of mental effort,
Mhm.
you can win a game just by simply having your army out there and intimidating your opponent into making mistakes.
Mhm. That's a really scary thought, man. But right now we have Neeb currently up 2-0, and Team Gravity's Kreos gonna have to make something happen. And we were kind of talking about this after game number one that Neeb was sort of just outplayed Kreos a little bit. What do you feel about? How do you feel about that second game? Is there some big kind of thing that Kreos needs to do to try and make it work?
Well, I remember during the game, I was like, Kreos really needs to get a little more aggressive. He needs to do something about
Mhm.
that third, and I don't think he was aggressive enough to hold Neeb back. And Neeb is the one that was being aggressive, and it's why he won. So I would like to see a little more aggression out of Kreos.
Hmm. Would you maybe even like to see? I mean, just some kind of big Roach Baneling all in on this game, just kind of like throw a wrench into Neeb's plan right now. Don't let him get into that macro situation. Or would you say that Neeb has been playing relatively safe with his opening so far?
Well, he's been playing safe, but just
Hmm.
because you're playing safe doesn't mean you're gonna be able to hold off a good Roach timing or Roach Bane timing. You have to
Hmm.
not only play safe, you have to play well the entire time. It's kind of like a Roach Baneling timing forces your opponent to play properly. Like it puts him on the spot there. Like this is
Hmm.
your opportunity to not make a single mistake. If you make a single mistake, you instantly die. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
I misrallied. The game's not over just because I misrallied
Mhm.
something. Whereas when a Roach Baneling timing hits, you have to do everything right.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of pressure for both these players to try and play this out as perfectly as possible. So let's go ahead and jump in and introduce the players as we spawn up here in the top right-hand corner on top of the yellow Terran player. Dominating those first two games, it is Neeb.
And in the bottom left corner, representing Team Gravity, playing Zerg, can he turn it around? It is Kreos.
And we have Darius in the chat even saying like, hey, it's rare to see Kreos out macroed. And
It is.
I mean, I believe it, man. Kreos looked like he had some pretty good macro potential, but Neeb is, I think it comes back to what you were saying before over there, Shadow, where it's just that idea of being aggressive with the army that you've macroed up to hinder your opponent's macro. So it's almost like you're not allowing Kreos to get to that full macro potential that he's used to.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And
And
that's something you only see from top level players, is that
mhm.
ability to macro, keep up with a macroer, and maintain aggression to be able to just squeak out that slight edge that you need.
Yeah, especially against a Zerg player, and we'll have to see if Neeb decides to go for that exact same build. I mean, it's been working out pretty well. Going for that good old Reaper opening, as we do end up having the gas guys are already thrown down for Neeb, so could do that, transition to Hellions, and hey, then we'll have to see, does he go for the Banshee or the Viking this game?
Yeah, I totally forgot about the Banshee in the last game.
That Banshee did, like, actually not a whole lot. That was actually a sunk investment the last game.
You know, I don't. I would say that actually it did a little bit because even though it didn't really do a lot of damage, it did. I saw that Kreos put down at least 3 spore crawlers in response.
Hmm.
So there was a little bit of an investment in drones and minerals to respond to that banshee.
That's fair, actually. Yeah, and I mean, forcing out 3 drones to turn into spore crawlers that early on, and obviously getting all those queens out for the defense and everything. You have to make all the zerglings to defend against the hellions, and it is a bit of a pain. So I can definitely agree with you over there. But 6 zerglings, that's like, I think that's actually at least 2 more than he usually has been making these past games. Do you think that's indicative of anything, or just a good old Reaper defense?
Yeah, it's anywhere between 4 to 8 zerglings, which obviously the median is 6 is fine for early zerg. That's just standard.
And I mean, in the meanwhile, this Reaper gonna try and come in over here, see what damage it can do.
Ooh,
He managed to
don't
take
lose
out.
that drone.
Oh, wow! Really nice timing on that spore crawler. As managed to keep that drone alive. The queen gonna be coming out. And once again, we end up seeing Kreos doing a really good job with that early defense against the Reaper.
Indeed, he has. And in the meantime, it looks like we're going to have the exact same build once again from Neeb. But that's fine. This is standard play. And Neeb has shown that he can win with standard play, so why not continue?
Yeah, I mean, if you win those past 2 games in the manner that Neeb has, I would be feeling pretty comfortable just saying, well, as long as I make sure that I don't just get all in or something crazy like that, just keep doing your good job scouting with that initial Reaper. Hey, maybe go for the Viking again and use it for a little bit of scouting information after you take out some of the Overlords, and you're going to be in a pretty good position, I think.
Indeed, and the timings are within 10 seconds of the last game. So that's Neeb is pretty much doing the exact same thing.
All right, so we'll have to see what exactly can Kreos switch up or do differently in this game. I mean, he's going for that 3rd expansion. Doesn't look like he's doing anything super duper aggressive yet, although he is making a handful of Zerglings. But would you say that those Zerglings are more just defensive Zerglings to try and deal with the Hellions?
Yeah, now that Speed's done, he's going to want about 20 or so Zerglings to deal with the Hellions and Reaper if he pushes in. Is that Reaper still alive? Yeah, there's 2 Reapers alive, so you're definitely going to want Speedlings.
And behind this, it looks like Kreos is just kind of droning up, taking some extra gas. Guys are probably going to be preparing for the later game, and we see the unit of choice from Neeb. It's going to be the Viking this time, and hey, man, I'm a little bit worried. Kreos got pretty heavily supply blocked that first game. Gonna have to make sure he doesn't let that happen again.
Indeed, and he's got 2 Overlords that are almost definitely going to die to that Viking, possibly a 3rd. So the moment the Viking starts hitting it, he's going to want to make preemptive Overlords.
Yeah, he does have 2 more on the way, which is kind of nice, but I mean, I have to say he's even continuing to send out Overlords pretty aggressively out onto the map. I'm a little bit concerned, but hold on that we actually have a big Zergling run by over into the natural expansion now, and they're actually killing off a decent... Wow, they only killed off 1 worker. That is some impressive control, man.
That's extremely unfortunate, because now he doesn't have his initial defensive Zerglings, and he's going to have to make the hard choice. Do I continue to drone and saturate that 3rd, or do I commit to an attack at this point? Because I've lost my defensive Zerglings. I can't afford to just sit around.
Oh man, he might actually even end up losing a queen over if he's not careful. He does throw down the transfuse, which is going to help at that queen a little bit. Gets them back on the creep, but it looks like the answer has been that Kreos is just saying, well, I'm just going to continue to drone, take a little bit of a risk. And I mean, that's, again, as you said, the situation you have to kind of, or the risk that you have to take. You either have to do it one way or the other. And another Overlord going to be falling very, very soon.
And a pro tip, a large hairball over the sensor of your mouse impedes its ability to sense.
That's a pretty good tip, folks. Listen to Shadow. If you have hairballs on your mouse, not going to be able to micro, and definitely not going to be able to split up your Zerglings against Hellions. But with that being said, we do end up seeing... God, that Viking is going to be going up to another kill on the Overlords. This is going to be up to its 4th kill, but at least this game, we're not seeing Kreos get supply blocked.
And surprisingly, it did not take out the Overlord up there in the top of the map.
Yeah, well-hidden Overlord up on the high ground. But we do see a double drop actually coming into that natural expansion. The Spire is not going to be done in time for this, and actually it's not even really a double drop. It looks like the units are just going to be coming in over here to the third expansion. There's a lot of Marines over here. The Queen's getting taken out. The Zerglin's going to be taken out by those Hellions as well. The Balins looking for some connections, but oh my god, both of them get taken out.
And ouch.
Oh, but the Banlings, there's 4 more, and they are going to be looking for some more connections. One of them does get a really nice connection, and managed to take a majority of those units. The medevac's going to have to basically clear out of there now, but would you say that they've done enough damage, or would you like to have seen a little bit more damage done?
I don't really think that the Banelings did enough damage, if that's the question you're asking. I think Neeb is still in a good position here.
Oh god, there's so many Zergons on top of that Widow Mine! He's gonna get a Baneling and a handful of Zergons. That's a pretty nice win, and even managed to pick up both those Widow Mines. Those Widow Mines are gonna be pretty happy. I mean, Neeb definitely cares about his army, man.
He does, and finally that Overlord's going down, and Neeb's taking his third simultaneously while he's doing this pressure down here at the bottom of the map. Once he saturates that third, he's going to be way ahead of Kreos.
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really scary situation for Kreos, and Kreos is actually just going for a 4th expansion. I mean, you kind of mentioned how you wanted to see Kreos get a little bit more aggressive. Do you feel like this is still that same situation where he needs to be more aggressive and he's not
Well,
being?
he can't. There's not really anything he can do right now. He doesn't have... If we look at his army sway, he's got 18 Zerglings and 6 Mutas. He would have to play like a god. He would have to split his Mutas, and I mean, just like no one I've ever seen before. And pull off harass that's unseen in the game of StarCraft, and at the same time macro properly.
Well, we'll
I don't
have
know.
to see how much of a god Kreos actually is. Is he Kratos or is he Kreos? The Noodles are going to be popping on pretty decent numbers. One Heli or a Reaper are going to be doing a little bit of annoying harassment, but big problem is Neeb is pushing out across the map, and this is where we end up seeing constant rally.
Unfortunately, an infant's life is on the line here, and Kreos does not win, so he really needs to win.
Oh god, that is actually terrible, terrible. Kreos is going to feel terrible about himself if he lets that infant succumb to a terrible, terrible fate. But now we end up seeing the Banlings getting some pretty decent connections. The Widowmine's not actually taking out a lot of those Banlings, and Kreos actually hold over here. He has a couple of Zergons left over, but the Noodles are now fighting the Marines. That is not the ideal situation. He does clean up, though.
That was an excellent hold. That is kind of what he needed. He just needs to do it one more time, and he's going to be on a very strong footing.
Yeah, I mean, we already see another army moving across the map. Widowmines establishing themselves, forcing those mules to actually back up. A lot of Banlings being morphed in, though. How exactly do you continue to hold against constant rallied units? You have to just...
Well, you rally your own units constantly.
Oh, man.
Sorry, I mean, but that's pretty much how you do it.
It definitely, I mean, it makes sense, man. And very soon, +2 Carapace is going to be completing for Kreos right now. That's going to be a nice little advantage for him if he can actually get that up before the +2/+2 finishes up for the Terran army. And Terran army going to be coming in once again. And looks like he's actually going for a nice little surround.
Kreos has been supply blocked for a while, and he's got plenty of larvae. So the Overlord's just popped. It would have been nice, but he's still holding, so it's okay.
He's continuing to produce more and more Mules, more and more Zergons. He has to against this relentless aggression right now. And those Widowmines actually do not have any shots left over. The Banlings get some really nice hits off, and it looks like Kreos is going to push Neeb back once again. The Medevac's even going to start to get taken out over here before those Marines stim all the way across.
That's a break he needed. He managed to pick off several Medevacs. This is much different than the last game, where you had the huge Medevac swarm because he wasn't picking them off after every engagement.
Yeah, and honestly, Kreos is starting to build up a bigger and bigger army as Neeb continues this aggression, and I feel like this is eventually just gonna, this actually might just snowball, and Kreos might actually just be able to finally push his opponent all the way back and start being aggressive himself soon.
Indeed, although he needs to deal with this attack down on the bottom. If he's able to do it cost effectively, because he just made a big swarm of drones, a big round of drones. If If he can start really taking advantage of that fourth and getting his economy up, then he might be able to do this.
Yeah, he has to be careful. The score callers have been taken out now. The Noodles are starting to build up into pretty big numbers. They still have to get those big Banling hits off on those Marines, and there is a pretty decent Banling hit over there, as well as actually a Widowmine helping out the Zerg player over there. But the Noodles is going to have to back up once again. He doesn't have any Zerglings left over, it seems. Or actually, it looks like they're just a little bit further behind. And, I mean, Banling's being morphed in. He needs those Banlings done now to just take out the Terran army. And again, the Noodles are building up to a really high number, but he's not pushing his opponent back yet.
Those Marines are about to be at 3-3, or they're going to be at 3-3 in about a minute or two, and those Mutalisks are still at 0-0. So these fights are going to go increasingly in Neeb.
Oh, the Widowmines! Oh, Widowmines do not get the shots off on those kills. That actually could have been devastating for Neeb, for Kreos. If actually he took too much damage on those meals, it would have been so hard to actually use those meals to be defensive for a little bit. But he does manage to save him, and Neeb just continuing that rally in of units. Do you feel like Kreos is actually starting to slowly come out ahead, or is this still just
no? I think there's this upgrade deficit that is going to end up being a problem if he continues to use a lot of mutas against Marines. I mean, he's certainly doing a great job of holding right now. He's doing a great job. But Neeb has, during all this aggression, he's been able to get his fourth up, and now their economies are pretty much on par again.
Yeah, and look at all those medevacs get taken out right now. The Widowmines don't have any shots left in them, but a handful of Marines are going to push those mules back until the Zerglings and the Banlings are continued to be morphed in. And medevac's getting focus fire down. Unlike that decision from Kreos, he's going to put a timer on how long this aggression can continue.
He is.
Oh man, but the third expansion is actually getting focus fire down right now. And it looks like Neeb does manage to get it. The medevac's going to get focus fire down once again by those Noodles, but the Noodles are actually running straight over a lot of Marines. Widowmine's actually doing a lot of damage to the Noodles as well. And now the Noodles count has dwindled to just 5 from 20. Could that actually been a bit of a mistake? It looks like Kreos is pushing in and being aggressive, but he's lost so many Noodles.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, Mutalisks, they had a limited lifespan anyways. 0-0 Mutalisks just don't have a chance against 3-3.